The primeval jungles of Beliyos were vast, a boundless expanse comprising a sea of green life and enigma. Ancient stone temples, weathered by time and the caresses of nature, rose from the green, lying forgotten. Scattered amidst them were relics of a smooth metallic structure, its shining polished surface calling like a beacon of modernity amidst the intrusion. The air was heavy with the smell of alien flowers in bloom, intoxicatingly heavy. With the earthy aroma of moist soil, a symphony of exotic cries came from creatures far off, all melding with the rustling of leaves in the canopy above. Logan Valor silently wended his way through this thick, unrestrained wilderness, all calculations made on cautious, stealthy footing. His hardened features, though partially concealed by the dappled shadow of the towering trees, spoke of a man marked by experience, burdened by a past that refused to let go. Steely, cold eyes scanned with the precision of a true predator through the underbrush, alert to whatever the underbrush might hold. The grand temple lay ahead, a colossal stone pyramid defying both time and logic. Its reliefs bore the depiction of ancient battles and celestial events, while the details of the carvings shone in the dim, otherworldly light from energy fields pulsing along the temple's lines. Eerie light cast shifting shadows over the dense foliage, creating a scene as equally fascinating as foreboding. It was that same mix of anticipation and dread that made Logan's heart start pounding as he approached the temple. It was not his first encounter with the said structures, but there was always something about each of them, a secret or a danger. There was something in the air, as if the jungle held its breath. The normal sundry noise of life was mute, as if in reverence or fear of the ancient edifice. At the base of the temple, the eyes of Logan were keen as he read the way up before him. Countless feet over thousands of years had worn the stone steps smooth. Logan took a deep breath, readying himself for the climb. His mind flashed back to his time as a Marine, to missions that had taken him to the edge of human endurance and beyond. Those memories filled with loss and betrayal were the ghosts that haunted his every step. As he mounted, each step seemed to echo in his mind under the weight of history and his past. He saw the faces of comrades gone, missions awry, and the moments of betrayal that had shattered his trust. Yet it was these very memories that fueled his relentless pursuit of redemption. Each step up the steep incline of the temple was a step from his past and toward the future, undefined as of yet. Up top, Logan came to where the temple led into its innermost chamber. The air here was cooler, and he caught the metallic taint of old energies. In the flickering light, the carvings on the walls came alive. Their scenes played stories of heroism and tragedy. It was impossible not to feel a sense of kinship with those stone warriors, their struggles long gone yet forever immortalized in the very fabric of the temple. A noise broke the silence suddenly. Logan whirled about, his hand reaching for the weapon at his side almost instinctively. From out of the shadows, tall and lithe, with the air of desperation and an apparent urgency about it, loomed a figure. Wide, fearful, yet at the same time determined eyes pinned him down. It was Arya, a Helian warrioress. "Logan," she called. Trembling, an urgency shook her voice. "We need your help. The Helios people are in great danger." The look in Logan's eyes became flinty as he looked at Arya. "I left that life behind, Arya. But if what you say is true, they won't stop until they have everything." Arya stepped forward, her face imploring. "You do not understand. We need help, and we need it now." "Shit," Logan muttered. He tried to keep himself far from wars, from bloodshed, and all the things that kept thinning in his mind. But the call of duty was a siren's song he could never fully ignore. The weight of Arya's words and the fear in her eyes stirred something deep within him. As they stood at the peak of the temple, surrounded by ancient stones vibrating with their own life, Logan knew he was set once more on the right path. The jungle around them seemed to pulse in time with his racing heart, a living entity, witness to the choices yet to be made. With that final, resolute nod, Logan turned to Arya. "All right, let's see what we can do." Added to that, there would be secrets and shadows that Logan would have to wade through within the jungle. Echoes of his past and the looming threat of Zenith Enterprises would be but other challenges hurled in his way, which he would undertake with a headstrong notion of duty that would simply not be hushed. The untamed wild of Beliyos Prime was but a beginning for a journey that would test his resolve, test his beliefs, and at last, define his destiny. Chapter 2. A Cry for Help. Overhead, the jungle canopy closed, filtering the sunlight into a kaleidoscope of green and gold. Arya took the lead, moving with fleetness and certainty, testimony to the intimate knowledge of the terrain. Logan followed, his thoughts a turbulent sea as Arya's urgent plea was processed. The Heliospeople, a proud and noble race on the precipice of oblivion, assailed by the relentless avarice of Zenith Enterprises. His past whispered that he should walk away, but his sense of duty roared louder. Arya stepped past a cluster of huge blooming alien flowers, the smell strong enough to make one's head reel. Looking at Logan, she gazed at him with a combination of determination and desperation. I know, Logan, that you've been through an awful lot, but we don't have the luxury of time right now. Zenith's forces are closing in. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Logan watched her, the tension in her stance, the flicker of fear in her eyes. He had seen that look before, on the faces of soldiers on the brink of collapse. He nodded, his will reaffirmed. Tell me everything. Arya's face lightened up a bit, a small amount of relief washing her features. Her voice was low but fervent as she continued. Zenith has been systematically destroying our settlements, stealing our technologies, and enslaving our people. We have tried to strike back, but the ground we gain seems lost within the day. Our only hope lies within the ancient technologies hidden within the Grand Temple, but we need time and protection to uncover and activate them. Arya narrated the atrocities of Zenith as they walked. She painted a grim picture of a once thriving civilization brought to its knees by corporate avarice. Logan listened closely, anger simmering just beneath the surface. The familiar feelings of guilt and helplessness fought to overwhelm him, but he forced them back. This was no time for self-pity. They broke through to a clearing, a set-up makeshift camp, the Helios warriors in movement, tired but determined, moving with a purpose to set things right at the unavoidable confrontation with Zenith. Logan's gaze swept over the scene, the makeshift fortifications and the tense but resolute faces. These were a people fighting for their very survival, and he couldn't help but feel a pang of kinship. A figure stepped from one of the tents, tall and forbidding, a Helios man with a scar running down one side of his face. His eyes were sharp, calculated, judging Logan with what might have been hopeful skepticism. This is Vortis, our leader, Arya introduced. Vortis, this is Logan Valor. He's here to help. Vortis extended a hand, firm in his grip. We've heard of you, Logan. Your reputation precedes you. Logan took the handshake and looked him in the eye. I'm here to do what I can. Arya tells me you're looking to activate the temple's ancient defenses. Vortis nodded his head grimly. Indeed. The Grand Temple houses powerful technologies, guarded by complex mechanisms and old codes. We need time to decipher them, and we have very little of it. Logan surveyed the camp with his tactical mind already in gear, working on a plan. We need to fortify this position and create diversions to buy you the time you need. I'll need to see your defenses and talk to your strategists. Vortis then led Logan around the camp, detailing to him their defenses. Logan made suggestions and was quick to point out weak spots, his experience and military savvy coming to the fore. Perhaps it was to the Helios warriors, at least a few of them, who could listen to the techniques and strategies which might turn the tide. For all the world, there might have been a sense of camaraderie building, a shared determination to stand against Zenith. That night, as the camp had finally settled into a fractious and uneasy silence, Logan sat by the fire, with only the sounds of the jungle for company, constant reminders of what a wild and untamed world it was they were fighting to save. His thoughts flitted from the plea of Arya to the faces of the Helios warriors, and the threat of Zenith that loomed. He came back to his senses at a rustle in the leaves. Arya came up, her face unreadable. She sat down opposite him, the firelight dancing on her face. Thank you for staying, Logan. We need someone like you. Logan stared into the flames, and their reflection shone in his eyes. I'm no hero, Arya. I'm just trying to make up for my past. Arya placed a hand out, resting it on his arm. Sometimes that's exactly what a hero is. Someone who fights not because he's perfect, but because he knows what's at stake. Logan's gaze lifted and met hers. Hope briefly swirled there, and something different, odd, and tenuous. He nodded, and between them, a silent promise passed. Theirs was to be a fierce battle, but for the first time in a long time, he felt he was where he had to be. Logan stayed beside the fire as night dragged on, keeping his thoughts between strategy and reflection in a cluttered mesh within his mind. The very jungle around them seemed to pulse with life, an echo of the struggles and triumphs that lay ahead. He was ready to face the challenges that came driven by a sense of duty, and that spark of hope that refused to be extinguished. Chapter 3. The Heliospeople. The first light of dawn, sifting through the dense canopy, cast a soft ethereal glow over the Helios settlement. An amalgam of ancient wisdom and modern ingenuity, the camp stirred. Logan Valor moved purposefully around the awake and vigilant Helios warriors, advising them and lending a hand where needed. He was no longer an outsider, but rather a part of this fight for survival. Arya followed, with the lines of her face edged in determination. There is something urgent Vortis has to show you. Without giving him a chance to react, she turned and led him through the camp. Logan was led away, intrigued. They arrived at a massive tent entrance, and beyond it were two muscular Helios guards. A momentary squabble with Arya and the two guards stepped aside to let them through. Inside, Vortis found himself staring at a holographic image of the Grand Temple and its environs. In brilliant 3D detail, every nook and cranny of the ancient structure had been replicated. Logan, Vortis greeted gravely. We have managed to access some of the temple's ancient records. They reveal a series of defensive mechanisms and technologies that could turn the tide in our favor, but they are locked behind complex codes and traps. Logan stepped closer and studied the holographic display. The wonder of a temple in the old world lay layered in defense, impregnable at the first glance. We'll need time to crack these codes, Logan said thoughtfully, and we'll need to secure the temple against any attack. Vortis nodded. Exactly. That's why we chose to show you this. He gestured toward a small luminescent crystal set in a pedestal. This is a data crystal that contains the ancient codes of Helios. It's the key to deactivating the defenses of the temple. Logan reached out, his fingers brushing against the smooth surface of the crystal. It pulsed with a faint, rhythmic light, as though alive. How do we use it? Vortis looked at Arya, and she looked back at him. That's the problem. The codes are written in an ancient dialect, one which only a few amongst us can partially understand. We need your help to protect the crystal and our people while we work to decipher it. It was making Logan's mind reel with it all. The possibilities, the strategies. We'll have to fortify the camp, put surveillance around the temple, and set diversions and traps to delay the onslaught of the Zenith forces. We can't let ourselves be caught off guard. Arya's eyes sparkled with determination. We have started to fortify the perimeter, but we need your expert touch to make it impenetrable. Logan gave a nod. Let's begin working now. The next days would prove no lesser a hustle for Logan, Arya, and the Helios warriors. As he's filled with ideas regarding strategy and security measures, the military background Logan had will come to pay off in minutes. He tutored the Helios in laying their traps and devices, which may be used for surveillance purposes and diversionary means. All these efforts turned camp into a beehive of coordinated effort, wherein all the participants had a part in common. Through the nights, Logan sat by the fire, his mind and his plans running in circles. The jungle, normally one of the most peaceful places of all, was now like a coiled spring, ready to break. Stakes were high and time was short, but in the tension, there was a growing sense of purpose. It was the first time in years that Logan felt like he was fighting for something that mattered. That evening, Logan was making final adjustments to a perimeter sensor when Arya approached him. Logan, "There's something you should see," she said, her voice soft but insistent. She led him through the camp to a secluded clearing where a small group of Helios elders were gathered around a large, flat stone. The next one had an intricate carving, almost like some sort of map for the stone, showing the inner sanctum of the grand temple. The elders murmured to themselves in their ancient dialect, as their fingers traced the lines and symbols. "This is a key to the temple's inner defenses,"